Hello everyone and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. As 2020 draws near to its close, one good thing that has happened is the revelation of just how many communist bastards have set up shop in the church and the government. Many faithful and patriotic Catholics and Americans have gone about their lives for decades almost totally unaware of the evil in their country and the church. A few sensed something was not quite right here and there, but were content to dismiss most of it as isolated and not connected. An even smaller group concluded this seems to be a lot worse behind the scenes than what it appears on the surface, in them intuiting it correctly that it was largely all connected somehow through some nefarious networking. And then there was the even smaller group, which was spot on in understanding that it is in fact all connected and all related, right back to communism, and yes, not only in the country, but also in the church. Count church militant in that last group. True, we did not start there when we first established this apostolate 15 years ago, but as we have been following the evidence as it emerged over the last decade, we have arrived there now, and our reporting on all of this as we followed the trail of truth has earned us massive backlash from those who want to keep all of the evils covered up. Oh well, tough. And speaking strictly spiritually, it makes complete sense that communism would firmly plant itself in both church and state. It took them a century or so, but they have done so quite aptly. In 1917, when the Queen of Heaven appeared to the three children at Fatima, this was her warning from heaven that the errors would spread throughout the world. We disregarded that warning, and well, here we are now. Marxism, at least for the time being, needs the church to put a friendly face on the evil and make it appear not evil, even make it appear Christian. Check that box, more in a moment on that. But it also needs to control the levers of government so that its goals can move from the streets to the halls of power. And as an aside, the role the media plays in all this is to keep you in the dark, spread the lies, smother the truth. Pretty simple formula there. So let's quickly look first at the usurpation of government. Trump says massive voter fraud occurred. There are now 2,000 sworn affidavits which testify to this. CM has interviewed multiple eyewitnesses from all 4 states in question, plus Nevada as well as Arizona. All of their stories match up in the large. To wit, election officials in each state changed the rules laid out in their own constitutions about how the election was going to be managed, resulting in tens of millions of mail-in ballots being used. In all 4 cities where the vote count swung the state to Biden and a giant Trump lead was miraculously overcome, Atlanta, Philly, Detroit, and Milwaukee, the vote counting suddenly stopped late in the night. Poll observers were sent home. Hundreds of thousands of ballots then showed up. Counting resumed in the dead of the night, unsupervised, and when the people woke up the next morning, those leads were wiped out or very close to being evaporated. The following day, GOP poll observers were not allowed in to watch the final votes being counted, and the few that were allowed in had to stand many feet away, sometimes in the next state, and could not observe anything, which is sort of the point of being a poll observer. And if they raised concerns, they were escorted out. The management of the ballots, the chain of custody, the verification of signatures, the correct counting of them, the correct sequencing of them, the correct tabulation, the fair observation of the counting, all of that was handled extremely poorly, to say the least, and the results cannot be verified as results. Additionally, all sorts of statistical analysis of the vote results have shown massive issues in distribution, timing, trends, probabilities, and so forth. These analyses were done by very reputable mathematicians at, for example, Rutgers, Harvard, MIT, and so forth. Likewise, in addition to the data, historical trends in the presidential race were completely turned on their heads. Bellwether states, bellwether counties, predictable state combinations, voting patterns across multiple voter categories, down ballot victories for GOP. So many they almost flipped the U.S. House. Never before in American political history has something like that set of events occurred. the odds of the incumbent losing with even one of those things happening are pretty slim. The odds of him losing and all of these things happening in combination place the odds of an actual Biden win at 1 in 1 quadrillion, as reported the other night. The rebuttal to all of this has been on the part of the media, who are Democratic allies. It's all lies and misinformation. There's no evidence. Well, that's not a rebuttal. It's a refusal to engage with the evidence. And as a result, half the country believes election fraud took place, and if he takes the oath on January 20th, Biden will be an illegitimate president. That is causing huge numbers of Americans to assess what they will do in their day-to-day lives. Not a small number have already begun a migration from blue states to red states, fearing a Biden administration support of state-run tyranny. Already, actual threats are coming from multiple Democratic lawmakers who say that those who supported Trump better watch out. A specifically detestable one from a state legislator right here in Michigan, and doubled down on by her the very next day. That's how communists are. They're friendly looking at first until they believe they have the upper hand, then they unleash hell. Of course, the same is true in the church, as Marxism, under the guise of the modernist heresy, has firmly implanted itself here as well. Although obviously administered differently than a secular government, many of the same underlying principles are at play. Evil leaders who are traitors have usurped their authority to bring about radical change. If you look even not at all that much closely, you can see some of this. For example, the leading proponent of Marxism in the world today is Communist China. And Marxists, both in the US government and the church, have very close ties to that atheistic state. We all know about Hunter Biden and now Eric Swalwell, not to mention scores of others, as testified to by the Chinese commie professor who let the cat out of the bag in a series of lectures about how China had spies and plants all over the government. In the church, the Vatican-China Accord is an example, number one as a matter of fact, as Vatican officials keep making the ridiculous assertion that China puts into action the church's social justice doctrine more soundly than anyone else on the planet. Not sure when forced abortions became part of the church's social doctrine, or religious persecution of millions, or a concentration camp setup that would make Hitler blush. Likewise, in the administering of the church, the Marxist bishops are right in lockstep with their Beijing buddies as well as Beijing Biden. They shut down opposition faster than you can say Tiananmen Square. If a priest preaches the truth, he's called into the bishop's office, assessed on the spot as having anger issues, and shipped off to St. Luke's nut house for clergy. St. Luke's is part of a small network of what amounts to little else than a concentration camp setup for dissident priests. And like China, the Marxist administrators use your money to pay for it all. Evil men are in key positions in the church and the government. They each want their respective institutions completely refashioned along the lines of Marxist ideology, and they have already had great success in that area. A large number of Americans are fine with socialism, and a large number of Catholics are fine with modernism. But see, here's the point. Americans fine with socialism and Catholics fine with modernism are not actual Americans or Catholics. They are, in a word, traitors. Some follow Benedict Arnold, others follow Judas. Some, we say, follow both. But at the end of the day, they're all guilty of treason. They are commies, commie Catholics and commie Americans, or better stated, commies in the church and in the nation. But they are not in any conceivable way American or Catholic. Commie bishops wrap themselves in religiosity, commie politicians wrap themselves in the flag. But both will happily throw off their disguises as soon as it's convenient, and many have already begun to do so, sensing rightly or wrongly that their moment has arrived. So as we stand on the brink here, we must first pray, in many ways like we've never prayed before, but we must also not remain silent in the temporal realm. Prayer and works are both necessary. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.